Study Session 12. Process Recording and Case Studies. Introduction. One of the major components of casework service is process recording. Work done without documentation is like an undone work. In most cases, recording serves as evidence of a case being treated or that has been treated. This lecture, therefore, discusses process recording and case studies in social casework. Objectives. At the end of this lecture, you should be able to explain what process recording entails and should be able to list importance of process recording. Pretest. 1. What is process recording in social casework? 2. List the importance of process recording in social casework. Content. One of the most intricate aspects of casework is the procedure to be taken in an attempt to seek solution to problems. Casework process, if properly followed, will give expected results. The process will enable social caseworker to know the causation of problems, source of problems, the real problems, what should be applied to treat the problems, who should be brought in to find solutions to the problems, and services and resources required in the treatment. Process recording in social casework is a systematic approach and documentation of events and methods of happenings from the time a client comes to the agency to seek help and to the time the help sought is received and the case terminated. This is where professional method of attending to clients' problems with all steps is followed. Step 1. The meeting. Introducing change is one thing and accepting that change is another. A client may have personal, social, or psychological problem and may be unable to solve this problem unaided. He may also be unsure of where and when to seek help. He may not also be sure of who the helpers, social workers, will be. If eventually he decides to come to the agency to meet the social worker for help, his first meeting, which is the first contact with the social worker, is very important to the client and his case. The social worker should know that first impression matters most. The social worker must be a source of hope and succor to the client and not of despair and hopelessness. Document all proceedings. Step 2. Every client in the agency requires adequate information about the agency to convince him or her that he or she has come to the right agency and that help will be received from the agency. Therefore, the social worker must be patient, knowledgeable, and skilled in casework practice. Information collected from clients should be confidentially treated and used only for the purpose of helping the client. Step 3. Social history. This is one of the most important aspects of casework process. The social worker must document the social history of the client, as this is the technique through which the client is known in the professional sense of it. The social history is not collected for its sake, but to form an essential basis for contractship help. The client's problem must be critically examined before any form of help can be rendered, except in medical crisis or life-threatening situations where investigations and help go almost hand in hand. Step 4. Analysis or diagnosis. After all information has been gathered, personal and social history of the client has been known, the caseworker is equipped with enough material to proceed in handling the next. Information is clarified to know what the need is. Substantiating data can also be used to prove that the need is significant enough to merit intervention. Through diagnosis, the caseworker is able to ascertain what the client actually said to be his problem, or if some other problems were the real problems or issues to be quickly tackled. The social caseworker should identify what resources the client would require and the means of accessing such resources by the client. Whatever help the caseworker intends to offer must be discussed with the client and jointly agreed before any help. The client has a major role to play in finding solutions to his or her problems. However, in all this, the caseworker must not breach any of the 7 principles of social work practice. Caseworkers should know that problems of life are not easily solved and it takes time for solutions to start to come in. Step 5. Treatment. Social caseworkers start treatment after the diagnosis of social problems have been made. The caseworker helps the client to look at the crisis situation more objectively. People in crisis are in turmoil. When you are in emotional turmoil, it is difficult to think clearly and objectively. The caseworker's task is to help clients assess their situation rationally and begin to cut through the cloud of emotion that biases their rational thinking. The caseworker helps the client to express hidden feelings. The caseworker critically explores the client's emotional state and the blockages that are preventing them from returning to his or her pre-crisis level of functioning. The client is advised to use past coping methods in resolving the crisis. In summary, treatment in social case work must be rooted in social support. Every process in treatment requires family and social support. Study session summary. Social casework has specific procedure to be taken in an attempt to seek solution to problems. Process recording in a social casework is a systematic approach, and it includes the documentation of events and methods of happenings from the time the help sought is received and the case terminated. In process recording, some steps must be followed. These are steps 1 to 5, namely the meeting, information, social history, analysis or diagnosis, and treatment. The meeting is the first contact with the client, and the caseworker should approach this first contact with all knowledge, methods, and skills required. This first contact can make or mar the contact, which must be attended to professionally. Worker-client relationship must be established. Also, adequate information must be systematically collected to be able to render needed help to the client. Proper social history taking will afford the caseworker the opportunity to arrive at social diagnosis of the client's problems. Also, adequate information must be systematically collected to be able to render needed help to the client. Proper social history taking will afford the caseworker the opportunity to arrive at social diagnosis of the client's problems. Proper diagnosis will lead to correct treatment. Therefore, the caseworker should bring his or her knowledge and skills to bear so as to arrive at correct social diagnosis. Finally, treatment or help should start as soon as the case of the problem is known. The client must be carried along by the caseworker in all plans for treatment and even in its implementation. The success of every treatment depends on the client himself or herself. Every step taken should be documented for record purpose. End of study session 12. Thank you for listening.